I'm Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V. And this month, almost all of my vlogs have been Christmas related in some kind of way. I've done my Christmas decorations, I've done my Christmas chocolates, which didn't actually end up being used for gifts for people because I ate them all. But I thought we'll carry on the Christmas theme this week, and I'm going to talk to you about some Christmas movies that I have watched this week. See, obviously, I've got 4 children, so I've seen all of the kids' Christmas films, all of them, and I've got my favourites. Muppets Christmas Carol. Christmas Eve would not be Christmas Eve unless we had watched Muppets Christmas Carol. We love Elf as well, it's one of my favourites. I love The Grinch, I think it's brilliant. And in December I really lean into the whole schmaltzy, sentimental Christmas tinsel vomit that is Christmas movies. I love it. The rest of the year, not my kind of films. Don't really like a schmaltzy, romantic, sort of sentimental kind of show. But at Christmas, I like that sort of thing. And I also have a real love for movies that are so bad they're actually good. And so, because at the moment I have caught up with all of the shows that I was watching, and honestly I'm getting to the point where I'm feeling like I have completed Netflix, I have completed Prime, I've completed all the TV shows. We've done TV. And so I haven't really got anything to watch at the moment. So I thought in the evenings when my kids have gone to bed, I'm going to start watching some Christmas films that are more aimed at adults. And so I began. And to be honest with you, I have been picking out the Christmas films that I think are going to be really terrible because I like a terrible movie. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 different movies that I've watched so far this month. The first one that I watched was A Christmas Horror Story. It had William Shatner in it as a radio DJ at Christmas. He loves Christmas, but everyone around him seems quite grouchy. Now, points to this one for including Krampus in the story, because I think that not enough Christmas films include Krampus. I feel like he's been sort of shunted off to the side, and I think he's an important part of the whole Santa magic thing. So I was glad that they included Krampus. Unfortunately, the film was just bad, not so bad it's good. Like, there were 4 different storylines going on in it all at once, which it didn't make it difficult to follow, but it just made it difficult to get into. Every time something felt like it was about to happen in one storyline, it would go to a different storyline, and then when we returned to that one, that thing had stopped happening now. And so it didn't feel very well structured to me. Although I liked the idea of a sort of spooky campfire storytelling session, but about Christmas sort of things. And they had some great ideas in there. You had one where Santa's elves got this weird sort of zombified disease thing and started attacking Santa. And you had one where like Krampus was stealing away children and replacing them with changelings that were kind of evil. And that was quite creepy. And you had your classic like teenagers have broken into the old hospital and it's all haunted. And that was weird. That storyline kind of went, it tried to do horror a bit too much, I think. Like the rest of the stuff, even though it had horror themes, it felt very slapstick, it felt very spoofy, whereas that particular storyline was just dark and disturbing, and it felt kind of out of place in a movie that had William Shatner as one of the main characters. And so, yeah, that's not one that I would watch again. It was alright. Christmas Horror Story was alright. It was watchable. But I didn't enjoy it, and I didn't find myself laughing at all or being on the edge of my seat scared either. And it needs to have fulfilled one of the 2, I feel. The second film that I watched, well, it wasn't the second film. I watched this one last night, but I want to talk about the other one last. So the next film that I'm going to talk to you about is called, what was it called? It was called Fat Man. And I read the premise, it sounded hilarious because it was about a kid who was disappointed in getting coal for Christmas from Santa. And so he takes a hit out on Santa. I thought that sounds fantastic. And we watched that. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't, well, I mean, it was bad, but it was quite good bad, if that makes sense. It was a film that's clearly meant to be a bit bad. And there were, again, a few narrative areas where I felt like it dropped off a little bit, which was a shame. You had this very spoilt rich kid who obviously didn't have any family actually around and engaged with him. His dad's away, and his dad sends him like a really unsuitable Christmas present that comes after Christmas. And he's left in this big old mansion house with everything he could possibly want, except for an adult that actually cares about him. He's just looked after by various household staff. And he has always won the science competition at school, but this year a different child won it. And so, of course, he did what anyone would do and kidnapped and tortured her until she agreed to say that she had cheated in her entry to the science competition so that he could be the default winner. And it's kind of heavily implied that he's done this before. And so because of that, Santa obviously gives him coal for Christmas. And he decides that he is going to have Santa assassinated. And so he gets in contact with a hitman who has also been disappointed by Santa, and they decide to try and take Santa out. The kid wants Santa's head. Kind of weird. But at the same time as all this storyline's going on, you've got Santa who's desperately trying to keep his business going. He gets a yearly grant from the US government, and it's not as much as he was expecting to be. It's not enough to keep the business going. It's not enough to keep the reindeer fed or the elves paid or anything like that. And so they decide to take on a contract from the US military and get the elves making military parts. And so when the hitman arrives, obviously you've got all these elves there that have been making weapons, and you've got all the US military there, and it turns into this whole, action sequence. What I did find weird was that they didn't resolve either of those storylines at the end. Obviously, Santa isn't able to be assassinated. He's immortal. So he gets shot in the head and survives, and later goes and puts the frighteners on this kid. Basically, I'm going to scare you straight. That's the big resolution, is that Santa comes and makes him look at this big bullet wound in his face. It's really weird. But it didn't resolve the budgetary issue that Santa was having. It was kind of heavily implied that from now on, Santa will be doing contracts for the American military throughout the year in order to keep the Santa in business going, which just felt weird to me. It felt like a really odd lack of resolution there. The hitman didn't get it resolved as to why he was so unhappy about Christmas, why he didn't like Santa. He just died. But I felt like it was very much hinted that there was like some really good reason that this person didn't like Christmas, that maybe when he was a child he had some really horrendous Christmases. He's like covered in scars from obvious child abuse, and I feel like writing him off as a bad kid was not a very Santa-ish move on Santa's part. The rich kid didn't get the resolution where his family realises that he is more important than money or whatever that you would expect from a Christmas film. So by the end of the film, there has been no character development whatsoever. None of the main storylines are resolved. It had a few funny lines in it. It had a few funny moments. It's a great, great concept, but maybe fell off slightly on the execution. What I didn't realise until about halfway through was that Santa was played by Mel Gibson. And he didn't look like Mel Gibson at all. And so I just didn't clock on that it was him for ages and ages and ages. I wasn't even watching it thinking, I know that Santa. What has he been in? Which is quite weird because Mel Gibson's fairly recognisable as an actor, and I would have expected to have recognised him straight away. I do really love when a film has a washed up, depressed and alcoholic Santa, I have to say. And that was one of the chief ingredients of the third film that I've watched, which may have just become one of my favourite Christmas movies ever, because it is so ridiculously ridiculous that it's excellent fun. And I think the makers of this film that I'm about to talk about were aware that it was an awful film whilst they were doing it. And so they hammed it up for that, and it was brilliant. I love when something's self-aware like that. So that film is called Violent Night. It is absolutely atrociously bad. I loved every minute of it. In this version, Santa, again, he's a bit of an alcoholic. You
ain't driving, are you?
I steer a little, but the reindeer do most of the work.
He's a bit disillusioned. He's a bit upset with the fact that Christmas has become so much about stuff, that a kid will rip open a present and then it's straight on to the next one. One of the people that he meets in the pub is also a Santa, but he's like a shopping centre Santa, whereas this guy is the real deal Santa. And he asks shopping centre Santa, why does he still do it? And he was like, oh, it's about the look on their little faces, isn't it? And he's like, yeah, but that lasts for half a second before they want the next present. And so real Santa's feeling quite disillusioned by this and like he can't really be bothered. And so this particular year, he is already quite drunk when he gets to the house where the story unfolds. Now, the rest of the story is very classic Christmas film. You've got a big dysfunctional family all gathered together in one house for the holidays. And so you've got all the different little bits that go into a family drama like that. You've got the absolute classic staple of a Christmas movie, which is the little kid where all they want for Christmas is their parents to get back together. And you've got this huge dysfunctional billionaire family that are all sucking up to the matriarch figure because she's the one with the cash. And whilst they're all gathered there for Christmas, a load of kidnappers come, hold them hostage, and are trying to break into the vault that is underneath this house.
You have $300 million in your personal vault. That's what I want for Christmas.
It's like £300 million or something that they believe to be in this vault. And they have come to sort of break into this vault and keep the family hostage until the vault is open. Now, what the hostage takers don't know is that the vault has already been emptied by one of the billionaire's kids, and that's a whole different strand to the story. I loved how when the billionaire woman found out that her son had robbed hundreds of millions of pounds from her, she wasn't even angry. She was just like, good for you, get what you can grab. Like, very billionaire attitude, I thought. So Santa is in this billionaire's house whilst they're being taken hostage. It takes them a little while to realise that's what's going on. And the reason that he realises is because there is a child in the house. Like I said, all this child wants is for her parents to get back together and everyone to have a nice Christmas, which is unusual for a billionaire kid, I would say, but that is all she wants. And she was worried that Santa wouldn't be able to find her or something because they were at the billionaire house instead of their own home for Christmas. And so her dad gave her a magic walkie-talkie where she could talk to Santa, but Santa's very, very busy, so he won't be able to reply. And he's done that so that his kid will talk to Santa and not bother him while he's doing his stuff. But Santa does pick up her transmission while he's in her house, and she tells him that they're being held hostage and that they've been kidnapped and all these bad things are happening. And so Santa decides that he's going to save this kid. And so what follows is a huge action sequence throughout the house. It's kind of Die Hard meets Home Alone in that you have this ridiculously slapstick violence.
Daddy said you were very busy tonight.
Some of it is quite over the top, I have to say. There is a point where Santa stabs a guy in the head with a star-shaped tree topper, which is plugged in, and then he switches the plug on, so this guy's head catches fire. And while he's doing that, he's having a very nice, sentimental and kind conversation with the child over the walkie-talkie. So it's a really sort of weird juxtaposition of this schmaltzy, classic Hallmark Christmas and blood, guts and gore action movie, and I absolutely loved it. Partly, I have to say, because some of the lines of dialogue were brilliant. It was bar humbug, motherfucker. And then Santa coming in like,
Santa Claus is coming to town.
and yeah, we loved that. I absolutely adored the scene where Santa is trying to pull something out of his sack to attack these people with, and he just keeps going, computer game, computer game, computer game, dull. Why doesn't anyone want a machine gun?
I gotta watch.
I believe in you, Santa.
But yeah, it was absolutely the best fun that I've had watching a movie in a really long time. And because it is that sort of so bad it's good, almost 90s movie, I don't know what year it came out, but it felt like a 90s movie. And it was very short as well. It was only an hour and a half, so it was quite quick and easy to get through. I didn't find my attention wandering at all. Dialogue was hilarious. The
Time for some season's beatings.
acting was rubbish. The plot lines full of holes. It was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. So let me know what your favourite so bad it's good Christmas movie is, or what Christmas movie I should watch next, because I might be able to squeeze a few more in before the year comes to a close. And I did really enjoy that. If you can find one that's as good or better than Violent Night, I want to see it, because I just love me a terrible Christmas movie. Join me on Monday for my next vlog. I am not sure what order I am posting my videos in, so all I can tell you is that the video that is coming out after Christmas will be showing off my Secret Santa gifts that I bought for somebody, because I don't want them to see it before they open it. I'm not sure what other videos I've got coming in between, but they're going to be Christmassy. And if you can't wait until next Monday to see me again, I understand. I will be here every single morning in your shorts, taking a great big deep breath, letting you know what I'm grateful for. Sometimes I let you know what's challenging me, and that is more likely at this time of year, to be honest. And I'm also here on a Witchy Wednesday doing an intuitive tarot card read for you as well. If you enjoy them, you can book me for longer and personalised readings through my Ko-fi. Until then though, you have yourself a magical week.